Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time we had a mysterious phone call with the similar, what's it called? Walk This Way. Not Walk This Way, that's a very different song, but like the melody that you get at like a crossing in Japan was playing on the phone for the second time. And suddenly Takumi had like a huge piercing pain in his head, and then it all went white and he passed out. When he woke up, it seems like there'd been a huge earthquake, and we got multiple perspectives. We saw Ban in the police station where suddenly everyone was like falling over with searing pains in their heads, and we saw Yua in the school in the classroom where all the students were clutching their heads and falling on the floor, and all the teachers were trying to look after them. We then skip forward a couple of hours. Takumi wakes up. He's like, oh my god, no, look what's happened. This is terrible. My PC and all the stuff on it's been ruined. Obviously, he's got his priorities straight. He's trying to sort out his PC. And then he decides to check the chat room to speak to Grim. He can't speak to Grim because he's not there. And then suddenly, who should pop up on his chat room but Shogun? Shogun says, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And then we were like, oh my god, where's Remy? Where's Remy? Remy, please come here. Remy suddenly bursts in the room and takes over the chat, saying, hey, you got to bully these people back or they won't leave you alone. Remy does the Remy thing, telling them to leave them alone or she's going to kick their butt. And then Shogun simply replies, you're dead. And then seconds after that, Remy suddenly says, whose eyes are those eyes? And then she has a bunch of pain in her head. She falls down, blood comes from her nose, and she's dead. Or at least it seems that way. Anyway. And since then, we've learned that there's no escape. No matter where you go on Earth, there'd be no escape. Terrifying. Let's see if she's actually dead. Don't leave me alone. Wherever I would try to flee, Shogun would be able to attack from high above in the sky. This can't be. This can't be real. Oh, it wasn't real. It's okay. It was just a delusion. Cool. I actually fell for that one. I'd forgotten that I'd actually clicked it. When I returned to my senses, I was still in front of the monitor. The answer Remy had written earlier had vanished. And Shogun's "You're dead" had as well. I looked back toward the rest of my room and Remy's body was nowhere to be found. I felt relieved that Remy wasn't actually dead, but I was disappointed that she hadn't shown up. Why? Why wasn't she here yet? I was absolutely terrified. I needed her now more than ever. Shogun had already left the chat room. All that remains were those 4 lines. I didn't want to see any of it, so I hurriedly closed the chat room while Shogun wasn't in it. My body was still trembling. Shogun was trying to provoke me. Was it fun fucking with me like this? Had I been chosen as the next victim, and this was a means to that end? Or was I just the perfect person to pin his crimes on? Someone, save me. Save me, please. I stared at the post-awakening version, Seratan, as if I was clinging to my only refuge. Being alone is scary. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted someone to be by my side. I wanted someone to protect me. Right. The school. If I go to school, Remy will be there. I couldn't bear staying here alone with my spiraling anxiety. I took off my worn-out sweatshirt that I usually wore around the house well, whatever you could call this. I don't know whether you'd call it a house. Threw on my uniform and left my base. Once I was hit with the cold air of the outside world, my headache was ever so slightly subsided. The city had a more restless atmosphere to it than usual, probably due to the earthquake from earlier. I didn't know that for sure, though. In the distance, the sound of sirens continued to echo endlessly, but I wasn't sure if they were from the ambulances or fire trucks. Could have been both. Yamatidori, which was 1 block away from me, was completely jammed up. Traffic was bumper to bumper. There were multiple visible accidents. Most heads-on, and the cars involved had simply been left abandoned on the road. The drivers nowhere to be found. Those abandoned cars were was the cause of this traffic jam. The other drivers were honking their horns like crazy. As I was wandering the streets to get to school, I saw a dog crossing the road barking. It was a Chihuahua, sprinting at full speed, dragging its lead behind its small body. Its eyes were bloodshot, and a small amount of drool was dripping from its open mouth. It had probably been gotten separated from its owner. As I absent-mindedly watched it get farther and farther away, I tripped on something and nearly fell over. The asphalt was cracked, and one section of the road was ever so slightly lower than the rest. It had it'd most likely come from the earthquake. Stopping right there, I looked up at the sky. There were a few white clouds drifting calmly across the dull light blue. Just after the earthquake had hit, something similar to an aurora had formed in the sky and tainted it pure white, but the traces of it had already disappeared. This isn't right. This isn't Shibuya. I couldn't calm down in the slightest. Not just because of the earthquake, and not just because of the headache either. It wasn't just those, but a certain urge that was threatening to overtake me. For some reason, walking around like this, it made me feel like I wanted to kill someone. Weird. By the time I got to the school gate, the anxiety and sense of dread I'd been feeling were increasing by the second. I had the chills. My body wouldn't stop shivering. Shivering! And my headache was coming back. When I looked closely, I noticed a group of students formed around the third-year building. I looked for Rimi within them. For some odd reason, everyone was looking toward the top of the building. And even those who weren't soon followed suit. And even those who weren't soon followed suit, I see. Punctuation here, surely. Almost like a bunch of lemmings. Oh, Taku! Masumi-kun rushed over to me. I should ask him where Rumi was. Look who decided to come to school today. Actually, I'll save the pissing you off for later. He looked gravely serious and his face was pale. Seeing Masumi-kun like this was very unusual. What the hell was going on? Things are bad right now, man. Real bad. Things are bad? What did that mean? What was bad? She was sick, right? People probably found out she was sick in the head and it made her crazier. She was saying earlier that she could fly. It's going to be gnarly. Real gnarly. I know I shouldn't, but I really want to see someone die. It's going to be crazy gory. It'll be awesome. What the fuck's going on? Hurry up and jump already. Oh, fuck. I could hear things like that coming from everywhere around me. Don't tell me. I had a bad feeling about this. Fearfully following the gazes of the other students, I looked up at the school building. Uh-oh. On the edge of the rooftop stood a single girl. In her hand, just like during the concert, was a D-sword with a pose emblematic of praying to God in the heavens above, on the edge of the roof. Stood Kishimoto Ayase. The shadow of the wicked heart lurks within that body. A presence which the eye cannot perceive. Kishimoto Ayase felt the wind blowing. The cold wind brought with it a faint hint of the winter. Her expression inundated with pain. Huge drops of sweat formed on her face as she faced the chilled gales. Even if I try to split asunder. Even if I try to split asunder. Perpetual nightmares alas take shape. The Sumai Academy rooftop was enclosed by a 2-meter-high wire fence. Ayase was standing on the other side of it, occupying a space of only around 30 centimeters. 10 minutes had passed since she'd first started standing there. One more step and she'd fall from the roof of the 4-story school building. Many students were gathered below Ayase, watching her with bated breath. And eventually become a sword. One that will tear this body apart. Although the police and emergency services had already been contacted, they'd yet to arrive, likely due to the earthquake that had only hit a few hours prior. The teachers were running around in a panic, scrambling to get gym mats ready in case of the worst possible outcome. Should they bear the shield of apathy? Ye souls shall escape the flames of war. And yet, Ayase stood completely still, unperturbed by the ruckus below, or rather she deliberately cut herself off from the rest of the world that lay beneath her. As she gazed up to the sky, Ayase closed her eyes, her pose emulative of that of a maiden praying to the heavens. Due to her good sense of balance, the wind did not manage to sway her slender body. A fact made all the more impressive by her grasping a sword as long as she was tall. On a battlefield reborn, come foes with malice in their hearts, ill will without compare. The sword. Her D-sword was blinking with a pale blue light, as if synchronized with it. Ayase's laboured breathing continued, and then she began to murmur once more. When the time comes, malice shall possess its own will, and thus reveal its true form. The verses she unfolded through her murmurs soon vanished into the wind. Ayase opened her eyes and gazed at the crimson sky spreading over the buildings of Shibuya. This world is laden with malicious delusions. Everyone thrills from the misery of others. Try as I might to close my eyes, to cover my ears, it is futile. For ever so long now, they have never left me. As she breathed this soliloquy into the air, Ayase pulled her gigantic sword to her chest and gently embraced it with both arms. Curiously, the sharp sword did not leave a single injury on her. I wanted to return. I want to make a return. It's too big. Return to the other world, where the greater will resides. And to accomplish that feat, I hewed my heart, accepting it all within. dreaming to be the vessel of chaos. Ayase's face twisted in sorrow. Tears quietly spilled from her eyes. Droplets, flowing voicelessly, were all swiftly carried away by the wind. However, Gladiol, is that how you say that? Gladiol quickens increasingly so. Gladiol? There is no longer any time left. I cannot find them. I cannot find them anywhere. Nor Heaven's Gate, nor the Wise, nor the Guide, nor the 7 divine punishments. What's she talking about? Are the Black Knights even real? I've already recited an unending number of verses. If that was insufficient for you. Oh, greater will. Ayase spread her arms out far and wide, as if trying to embrace the sky itself, as if trying to show her presence to God on high. Then I shall fly. The pale blue pulsation of her sword intensified. Ayase closed her eyes once more, and in that moment a final tear dropped from the corner of her eye. I beg of you, O greater will, take this vessel as an offering. Take my soul away with you. And then, without a moment's hesitation, the girl, with nothing there to support her, took a step forward. Holy fuck. There she goes. Toward the place I must return. She felt the cold caressing her cheek. Her gaze fell to the earth. What? What? What is that? Looming closer as she fell was a door. A gate. And on the other side of it was the sky Ayase desired. I couldn't do anything but watch it unfold. After Ayase spread her arms out, she slowly stepped into the thin air, as if taking a step down on a non-existent staircase. Screams began to build among the spectators, coalescing into one gigantic roar. With nothing left to support her, Ayase, like a puppet whose strings had been cut, fell head first toward the ground. Everything appeared to be in slow motion. Ayase's body was going to crash to the ground. Her descent was incredibly slow. But she was definitely falling. She was going to die. Ayase was going to die. I couldn't do anything to stop it. I couldn't save someone falling from that high. And there was nothing but concrete below her. It would crush all her bones, rupture all her organs, and make her dark blood and grey matter squirt out all over the ground. If only there was a flower bed or something. If only there was something soft below her. If there was, maybe it could save her. I didn't want to see someone die. As I went to close my eyes, for an ephemeral moment, I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I looked behind me, but not a soul was standing there. Everyone was either looking down, averting their eyes, or looking up at her. Whose eyes are those eyes? Oh God. A sound shook the air. The sound of a person crashing down. It was the first time I'd ever heard that sound. But it had a lot less impact than I was expecting. What the? Next to me stood Masumi-kun, his eyes wide as dinner plates. I expected his gaze to be tainted by dread, but the way he stared at the place Ayase had fallen was one of surprise, not horror. And it wasn't just Masumi-kun that was like that. All of the spectators looked like they had no idea what was going on. They were all lost for words. She's alive! Huh? She was alive. Ayase wasn't getting up. I couldn't tell if her bones were crushed. I couldn't tell if her organs had ruptured. But her grey matter hadn't spurted everywhere. Nor had her dark blood. A small, feeble groan escaped from Ayase's mouth. She was alive. She seemed to be unconscious, and she wasn't moving, but she was alive. She was barely even injured. There was only a small drop of blood on her forehead. She'd fallen from the rooftop. But there she was, lying there almost completely unharmed, lying atop a flower bed. A flower bed? Was there always a flower bed there? Weird. It appears there was quite the discrepancy between what we had envisioned and the actual results. I assure you it was merely the first step toward evolution. No, you neglected to inform us that the number of fatalities would exceed 100. Was the plan flawed from the offset? No, sir. I would like the two of you to reflect upon the evolutionary process of mankind. Oh, hang on, I guess that's him because there's two of them. I can acknowledge that evolution requires sacrifice. The deaths bear no importance to me. The critical issue is how it diverged from our plans. It has always been within expectations on the basis of my internal predictions that is. Then why didn't you inform us beforehand? In order to control information, preliminary arrangements are required. We're not sacrificing important resources, people and money, namely to feed your eccentricity, remember that? Oh, that's the old guy. I'm assuming it's this guy. Rest assured, as I previously stated, everything is within expectations. Before long, there will be no need to endure the hardship of gathering votes for elections, nor will there be risks of prosecution for extorted political canvassing. The day we will transform Japan. No. The entire globe is drawing near. Be discreet, for if the Committee of 300 discovers our mutiny against them, our lives will be forfeit. Committee of 300? Tell me what that is. A secret organisation shrouded in mystery, room to manipulate the world behind the scenes. Composed of only 300 members, they're known as the Unseen Rulers. Oh, interesting. Your duty is to act in accordance with the plan. Nothing more, nothing less. We will be the ones performing adjustments. I'm well aware of this. Ha! Ha! No matter. No matter. Let us hear your report regarding the second generation. Very well. You gentlemen will be pleased to hear the final results. Noah 2? Noah Eel is what? Noah the second? I mean, those guys are definitely the bad guys, right? I bolted away from the school as fast as I could, and I ran and ran all the way to the park. Only when I felt like I was about to suffocate did I stop. My lungs were in dire need of oxygen. As I gasped for air, I took a quick look around the park. There was no one around. There was no one there I was afraid of. Neither Shogun nor Yua were anywhere to be seen. Relieved, I tried to catch my breath. It was almost evening. The sky's blue was slowly turning orange with the twilight. Compared to the insanity at the school, there'd that had felt so unreal, this park was completely quiet, just as it always was. The incident from before had ended as a failed suicide attempt. Ayase had then been taken away in an ambulance, but I had no way of knowing what had happened after that. After going through all of that, I gave up on searching for Remy and came here to the park instead. The scene from only a few moments ago was engraved into my mind. Back then, when Ayase's body came crashing down, I'd been convinced that nothing could have saved her. But she had been saved. I didn't know how exactly, but I at least knew she wasn't dead. She'd been breathing. Virtually unharmed, too. Under normal circumstances, she would have absolutely died. The thing that saved her was a total miracle. She'd fallen on top of tender soil on a flower bed. So had we just imagined a flower bed into reality? It's kind of cool. Something that was physically impossible. It was physically impossible for Ayase to have fallen on top of a flower bed. Because there hadn't been a flower bed there. Just before Ayase had fallen, the place where she was going to fall had nothing but the grey asphalt of a parking lot. A number of the Sumai teachers parked there. So how had a flower bed just appeared there? Had I done that? It was true that at the time I'd been so frightened that I had a delusion about how a flower bed appearing below her could save her. But even then, was it really possible? Was it really possible that the delusion had become reality? Okay, let's consider it. First, I had a feeling that I might or might not have special powers. Second, it was the time Ayase had split in two, and now I just experienced something similar to that. So, creating a flower bed in an instant, how could I have achieved something that extraordinary? I didn't even have a D-sword. And on top of that, the flower bed had continued to exist, even after Ayase had crashed onto it. When the teachers had rushed to check on her in the flower bed, the footprints had been visible. The flowers blooming there, which had appeared to be the same as the ones in the courtyard, had been trampled over by the emergency services. When I looked, a number of flowers had either been flattened or had their stems completely bent. And the flower bed might have still been there, in that state. A delusion. A delusion had become reality, and it stayed that way. It hadn't disappeared afterward, which made it different from Ayase's other self. And everyone had accepted the idea that the flower bed being there was also natural. No one even questioned it. Had I seriously done that? Or all of that? Hey! Huh? A sharp voice called for me from behind. Before I even got the chance to turn around, a hand grabbed me by the collar. With no chance to resist, I was shoved violently against the playground equipment. You were? Ugh! Gah! I groaned in pain as my back hit the equipment hard. Oh, it's her. Hiya, let's go green with this.
That was you, wasn't it? You made that flower bed.
It was her. Seen her. She was the one tossing me around. She continued gripping my collar with tremendous strength. It grew hard to breathe. I tried to fight back by squirming and flailing around with my arms, but she refused to let go. Her eyes filled with a sharp, murderous light. It sent a shiver down my spine. Thinking I was about to die, I shook my head in desperate denial.
Don't play dumb with me.
Whee! Here we go. I could feel Senna's breath on my cheeks. Just the thought of her only needing to move a bit closer to rip my throat out with her teeth genuinely terrified me. Staring at me at point-blank range, Senna... what? Oh, God. What do you expect when you click green? I felt something warm and soft press against my lips. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that I couldn't breathe and I was getting really dizzy. I tried to push myself away from her, but Senna was still grabbing me by the chest, so I couldn't move. Something began wriggling lustfully around my lips, against my lips, and then it penetrated my mouth. It twisted roughly around my tongue, slid across my gums, and violated me orally. Ugh, I don't like that image. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was for some reason it felt really good. But I still was having trouble breathing. I was about to pass out. But just before I would have, the wriggling object left my mouth.
Ah. Ha. Ha. There you go then.
Sena's lips glistened with saliva. She'd been staring at me with murderous eyes only a few moments ago, but now her eyes looked utterly enchanted. Wait, had she just... kissed me?
You're a hero. Lend me your strength. Fight by my side. You can't refuse. You're coming whether you like it or not.
After rattling off that insanity in an angry voice, Senna brought her face to mine once again. She pressed her lips madly against mine and violated my mouth. Less with the violating. Hot breath and sweat saliva trickled past my lips.
Ha! Ha ha ha! I am a priestess born from the sole purpose of offering my pure blood to a hero.
In a state of pure ecstasy, she rattled off line after line that made me think, what a rose is this?
We can't win this war without you. Now, let's exchange a contract of blood.
Senna's teeth sank deeply into my lip. Pain shot through me and the taste of blood spread inside my mouth.
I want you.
Did she have any idea how to ask someone something? Ever? Even if she did, everything she'd said was completely absurd. But the sensation of basically getting reversed... Oh, I don't want to... Okay. Well, to be blunt, I was hard as a rock. Oh, okay. Okay. I could get into this kinky roleplay. Okay, yeah, turn that off.
Don't you dare ignore me.
I shot back to my senses. Cena was still grabbing me by the chest and she still had my pin me to the playground equipment. And her face was still really close, so our eyes met and my face went hot. I said, who taught you how to use that power? I didn't remember her asking anything like that. Maybe that scenario from earlier was just a delusion I'd used to escape reality. Maybe. Despite me still trying to wrap my head around the situation, Cena didn't seem to care and started shaking me violently.
Who was it? Answer me!
Cosmic Church of the Divine Light.
Are you involved with the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light? Or not?
Divine Light. A newly founded religion. Inaugurated in 1930, the public estimate places the number of followers at around 5 million, but the actual number is thought to be closer to 2 million. Interesting. Divine Church of the... what now? I shook my head reflexively. I can't breathe. You're choking me. I'm going to pass out. I'm going to die. I'm done for. And then we died. Just before I lost consciousness, Senna suddenly let go of me and I collapsed to the ground. I kept on coughing, struggling desperately to get oxygen to my lungs. Was Senna my enemy after all? Senna my enemy. Was she another one of Shogun's underlings? If she was, then I had to run away.
If you're not one of them, I'll let you go. Sorry.
Noticing my confusion, Senna clicked her tongue lightly and then let out a sigh. And then without saying another word, she went to leave. I guess she wasn't going to hurt me. Then... Wait. Mustering up all my courage, I called after her. I'd expected her to ignore me, but instead she stopped and turned around. Her expression remained stern, but she still looked like she was willing to listen to what I had to say. When you say power, what do you mean? Senna knew something. She'd asked me if I'd created the flower bed from before. Everyone but me had recognised the flower bed as something that had always been there, but that didn't seem to apply to Senna. The flower bed from earlier, how did it...
You had a delusion of it, didn't you?
A delusion? I had, but...
It's possible to turn delusions into reality. Objects that aren't real blend into the objects that aren't real blend into the scenery around us. In other words, it allows errors to be perceived as real. But if you can only see it with your eyes, then it's nothing but an illusion. Illusions were nothing more than that. Illusions. Fake stuff you perceived as real. If that flower bed had just been an illusion, then Ayase shouldn't have survived. The only way Ayase would have been saved was if the flower bed hadn't been an illusion, but entirely real. The mechanisms behind the world's function can be explained by three numbers, 01 and -1. A D-sword is a shortcut to produce the last of those, -1. And yet, you somehow managed to do it without a D-sword. There she goes again. More incomprehensible garbage. Wait, but I realised that what Senna was telling me wasn't just some schizo shit she'd come up with. The VR technology patent did exist, after all, so that at least wasn't BS. Senna definitely knew things that I didn't. From now on, don't produce any more errors. Got it? This is for your own sake. Not mine. Also, tell me if you see any other errors. Without letting me even get a word in, Senna blasted me with thing after thing, most of which sounded like threats, and then when she was finally done, she turned her back to me. Who is this, do we think? How nice it would be if we could believe everything we could see. After spitting out one last murmur, oh I see it was her, this time Senna finally left the park. Whoa, okay. Well, that was exciting. And I guess next time we're going to be looking at the General Hospital. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I'll see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. Bye-bye. See ya.